Hello, sisters. Welcome to She Talks. I'm Sara Avant Stover, a yoga and meditation teacher, best-selling author, and founder of The Way the Happy Woman. I'm so happy to share that my brand new book, The Book of She, Your Heroine's Journey into the Heart of Feminine Power, is now available wherever books are sold and at thebookofshe.com. To celebrate her arrival throughout the months of October and November, I'll be featuring a special series called She Stories, where we hear the heroines' journeys of 14 inspiring female leaders. I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Hello, beautiful women. Welcome home, and welcome to She Talks. Today I'm speaking with Nisha Moodley, and Nisha is a women's leadership coach, the creator of a few really great programs: Fierce, Fabulous, Free, Global Sisterhood Day, which happens every year on March 21st, and the Freedom Mastermind. She serves ambitious women in redesigning their lives and businesses so that they're aligned with their hearts. Nisha, I'm really looking forward to talking with you today and hearing your voice and perspective about the heroine's journey. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here. And as I mentioned before we started recording, I just feel so grateful for your work in the world and really heartwarmed by what you've been creating with Book of She. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm receiving that. And Nisha, we always begin our gatherings here at The Way the Happy Woman with a personal check-in. So I know you just shared something personal, but so women can kind of locate you in space and time, can you let us know where you're calling from today and just what's alive for you in your inner landscape as you're settling in for this interview?
Yeah. Well, I just got off a call with my mastermind women, which was really beautiful, and so I got to connect with their hearts. So I'm feeling totally steeped in the sisterhood space, which is one of my favorite spaces to play in, and so that feels really great. And it's early evening. I'm in East Hampton, New York, which is just a beautiful place to be. My home is in San Francisco. My primary home is in San Francisco, but I'm here for one more day, and just enjoying that this is the last appointment of the day. But to be able to have this conversation with you, it feels like a really sweet way to cap off the day.
And Nisha, you mentioned sisterhood, and I know that is a passion that we both have. And I'm wondering, what did this grow out of? How did you get so passionate about sisterhood to the point of creating this global sisterhood day?
Yeah, so I'm, as you mentioned, a coach, and when I started my coaching practice in 2007, I was working with clients one-on-one, and I, as new coaches often do, I was like, I'll work with anybody. Men, women, children, whatever your issue is, I'll figure out how to solve it. But life just kept sending me women, and it's great. I've always been kind of a woman's woman, meaning I've always had lots of girlfriends and, felt really easy in relationships with women. I've had to do much more work in growing my relationships with men in my life. So I was working with women and one-on-one, and my business got to a place where I started to feel like, okay, I can't take more one-on-one clients. And there was also seemed to be a desire from many people to do something that was more affordable for them or more in reach for them. And so I started putting together group programs. And again, it's like, I'll work with anyone, men, women, and I kept getting sent women. And so I thought, okay, I'm just gonna start working with groups of women. Let's see what happens here. And so I started leading these group programs with women. And I was really amazed at the kind of transformation that would happen in the groups. And I was noticing that for maybe all of the women in these groups, they seemed to be having a faster and deeper transformation of old patterns and old beliefs and things that had been sort of plaguing them for a long time. It was sort of happening deeper and faster, this transformation, in the groups in many ways than it was happening in my one-on-one coaching. And I was like, what's going on here? What is this all about? And my first inclination was to just assume that it was accountability. And I really realized that wasn't about accountability. I didn't have particularly accountability-oriented coaching anyway. It wasn't about like, here are the 3 things you need to do, and you're going to check in with me every day and make sure you've done them. It wasn't quite that flavor. And I realized what it was that these women, and I was specializing in working around emotional eating. And so these women were talking about things in their lives that they felt, in their lives and about themselves, that they felt a lot of shame around. And then that shame was landing in a space of total love and acceptance and understanding. And they were saying these things out loud that often they hadn't told anyone. And they were just getting loved in return. And I realized what was happening just in the simple fact that we were in a group and that it happened to be a group of women. There was healing that was happening. And so the growth and transformation wasn't about accountability or that they were getting more tools or different tools than my one-on-one clients. It was that they were sharing shame and desires and like deep vulnerabilities and being loved and celebrated in return. And it was creating this incredible healing. And at the same time, I, in my personal life, was really struggling in my marriage. And I feel so grateful for the friends of mine that I had at that time who would not accept my kind of weather reports about my marriage, where they'd be like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, marriage is tough, but we're working on it. And I had those few friends who courageously, grabbed my hand and took me into the deep waters and were like, yeah, okay, what's really going on? And as I shared with them the things that I felt really embarrassed about and, that I didn't want them to know about my life and my marriage and, my secret desires and my fears, I was experiencing the same kind of healing that my clients were experiencing. So I just started to get really sold on the power of sisterhood, the power of loving, supportive community to help facilitate deep healing in a person and really help to deliver them into a greater state of freedom, intrinsic freedom. And so I just started doing everything that way. I started running group programs and retreats, and just everything I've done since has been in the space of community, or almost everything I've done since has been in the space of community. And that kind of led up to 2015, I guess 2014, where I woke up one day and I was like, Global Sisterhood Day, we need to have a day. And I had no idea what I was doing, which is great, because if I had known, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Isn't that the truth?
It was just a calling, it's like one of those things where people are like, how did you decide to do Global Sisterhood Day? I was like, no, I just decided not do it. But the decision was made for me. I was, handed it. It was just a calling, and I just had to surrender to it. So the choice was really surrender more than instructing something. But that's how sisterhood came to be a pillar in life.
And the heroine's journey is, I feel that it's really something that happens both in sisterhood and in solitude.
Mm-hmm.
But that even when we're in solitude, we feel the support of the sisterhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's, I had this moment, I think last year in Costa Rica before Sisterhood Day, so at some point, and I was like, ooh, what does it mean to sister, the verb, and what is sistering? And so thinking that maybe I had made up a new term, I was really excited and I got online and I Googled sistering. And it turns out there is a thing called sistering in the dictionary. And I discovered that it is a construction term. And so in construction, like building construction, sisters are like supporting components, foundational components, like foundational beams, for example, in a building. And sistering is when you put one foundational component, so let's say one beam alongside another beam to reinforce it for support. So literally, like I'm sitting in a house right now, this house, the structure of this house is sisters and the act of sistering, which is the reinforcement of each of these supportive beams. I was like, wow, that's actually how I experience a sisterhood, that I can be in my own, sometimes, blissful, sometimes flailing journey with my journey. And I can be in my journey and it's me in it. And I might feel incredibly alone in my experience or in my moment. And I know that I'm held by this greater web. And not just the web of my girlfriends, my close friends, my kind of peripheral friends, but in the fact that, there are all the women who have come before me and all the women who will come after me, that we carry all of this together. And so held in the web of, my intimate sisterhood of my close sisters and friends, but also in the greater web of sisterhood. So I so resonate with what you said there.
And I find that also these circles of women, both when I've been a participant in them and also leading them, it's just an affirmation that we're not strange, we're not flawed, that just to hear another woman to share about her struggles with her sex life or her body or her money or her confidence, there's such a sense of reassurance that, oh my gosh, that's what I'm feeling too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, and I think often also the healing of the comparison and the competition that we can so easily come into, and it's not ours alone. That has all been forged in a society that is perfectly architected to have us be in comparison. And
it's really the dark side of the feminine. It's
absolutely, and I can't overstate how many times I've heard women share something that they feel so ashamed about, and have another sister say, I can totally relate, and then have another woman share an experience that might be completely different. Like one woman's like, I've always struggled, with my weight. I've always been in a battle with my body, and, I was called fat and this and that as a child. And then another woman who would say, I've always been the skinny girl, and I've always felt this about that. And all of a sudden in the difference, there's like a mutual love and respect and sort of healing of the way that we see ourselves as different, to realize that we're not actually that different. Like we might have experiences that look really different on the outside, and the ache in our heart, they're not that different.
Nisha, you mentioned your marriage, and I'm wondering, because usually there are many different kind of upheavals in our lives, a few big ones over the course of our lives that really quicken the heroine's journey and more intensely sculpt us into who we're becoming. Would you say that marriage was a big one of those for you, or is there another one that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, I really resonated with the beginning of what you shared in the book of She around your breakup story. And I would say that one of the largest events, at least in the recent history of my life, was my divorce was a big one. And I would say that the punctuation was actually the separation of a relationship that I had after the divorce. And so for me, what it was was that I could, because perhaps my parents are divorced, because, I lived in Vancouver and then New York City, I lived in metropolitan areas. The idea of getting divorced, for me, it didn't hold a lot of shame around it. So I could reconcile that I was a woman who had gotten divorced. I could make space for that in my identity. But right after I separated from my husband, I fell in love again and got into this really beautiful, deep relationship. And, we struggled along. And about a year in or so, he broke up with me. And that, for me, was, it compounded whatever. First of all, it compounded whatever pain I was holding on to from the divorce that maybe wasn't fully healed. And also, it just rushed to the surface. It was like the floodgates burst open, like the dam broke. And I had no space in my identity for being whatever I was at the time, a 34-year-old woman who was divorced and had a failed relationship. I had no space in my identity for it at all. And I was crushed. And it brought up all of my deepest fears that I think I didn't even know were there. I didn't even know that what was running in my psyche was this validation via relationship thing. You are making me whole because you choose me. And if you don't choose me, what does that say about me? And I actually lose my wholeness if I lose you, my sense of wholeness if I lose you. And, of course, the stronger, the more we need the initiation perhaps, or the more ready we are for the initiation, the more powerful the dose of medicine is that we'll get. And so, not only was it, a marriage that ended and then this relationship that ended kind of on the heels of that, it was also a partner who I really respected and really admired and really, in many ways, held on a pedestal. So I had him, of course our relationship had to rupture. I had him as better than me. I had it as how did I get so lucky, to have snagged this guy? This wasn't sort of front of mind, but I think running beneath the surface was some narrative that went something along the lines of, wow, if he found out who I really was, I wonder if he would really choose me. So of course he didn't choose me at a certain point, and I had to learn to choose myself, which sounds trite, but it's so true. And that, holy shit, was no small feat, has been no small feat. It's I'm still in choosing myself and discovering what that means every day. And I think it's one of the greatest gifts that I've ever had in my life was that breakup. And for the first time really allowing myself, because I actually felt I didn't feel resourced to do anything else, A, and B, I knew that I had to take my own medicine. And so to really allow myself to put myself in the laps of my girlfriends, and to surrender to that I didn't know how to get out of the excruciating pain that I was, and that I didn't know how to feel whole if I didn't feel chosen by someone else who I was deriving such a great sense of personal validation from being with. And, I really feel like that's been one of the greatest quicksand experiences of my own journey.
So Nisha, I know you mentioned that you drew on the support of Sisterhood during this time, but what were some other resources that helped you to choose yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's an important aspect about leaning on my sisters during that time, which was that I realized my initial inclination was actually to pull back and to kind of isolate a little bit and nurse my wounds on my own, and realized that was actually mainly coming from not wanting to be a burden and not wanting to be a broken record, and feeling like they have their own lives, and this one's pregnant, that one's busy, this one has her own stuff going on. And really realizing that if I am a stand for sisterhood, which I said I was, that it was going to require me not to just be the lap, but also to be the one on the lap at times. And so, I say this because it wasn't just, reluctantly leaning on my sisters. It was actually standing up and saying, I really need your support right now. Can I come and lean on you without any expectation? Somebody might say, actually, you can't right now. I don't have the bandwidth. And I'd be like, okay, great. I love you. I know you love me. I'll find another lap. And so really surrendering into receiving their love was so healing. And it really, I feel that it was such a key to me navigating. And the other thing was just I really found that in that experience, I was able to not make myself, there are two other pieces I would say aside from sisterhood that are coming to me now, just not making it wrong that I was devastated, helped me really navigate the highs and lows. Like I remember those few days after breaking up, I would sob on the floor, my eyes were so puffy and I'd be just bawling my eyes out. And rather than going into any sort of suck it up, you have stuff to do, any of that sort of military commander thing, I was really gentle with myself and really patient with myself and sort of, bringing on the inner mother, the inner mama to just let the little girl in me who was really heartbroken just be heartbroken and sad. And I felt myself sort of holding myself in those moments and just allowing all the pain to be there. And the thing that I guess might seem counterintuitive to some people is that allowing the pain to fully be there helped me feel less pain. Allowing the suffering helped alleviate the suffering. And I would say the other thing was just being really foundational about what I needed. I needed food. I needed shelter. I needed warm cup of tea. I needed, to be outside in the sun. I needed to breathe the fresh air, and just giving myself the basic care of nourishing food, the basic, it was one of the first things I did was haul myself with big sunglasses on and a total giant red swollen snotty nose to the grocery store to buy super healthy food and flowers and all the supplies that I would need to feel cozy. And, I just made soup, threw myself on the floor, cried, got up, ate soup, cried on the floor, got up, cried on a girlfriend's lap, got up, typed a blog post, cried on the floor, ate more soup. It was just basic, taking care of myself the way that if I were a mother, I would want to take care of a really sad child. And I feel like that spaciousness and love and patience with the process really served me in actually getting the gold at the heart of this really dark cloud in my life.
I love that you mentioned that, kind of breaking your own psyche into mother-child, because that's exactly what I had to learn to do in that crisis, the breakup that you mentioned opened my book. And I think that that's not something that we talk about enough as women, because we never learned to do that. And I think it's something that we as women don't acknowledge enough, of how central that inner relationship is between inner mother and inner little girl. Mm-hmm. And what are some ways that, I think that this is key to choosing ourselves. For me, each day, it's checking in with that younger part of myself and seeing what she needs, because she's our vulnerability. So what does that look like for you now on a daily basis, now that it's some years later, after the divorce, after the breakup? What does choosing yourself look like on an average day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I think that there's a metaframe that I hold that all parts are welcome. All parts of me are welcome. There's no sort of, voice inside of me that isn't welcome here. And the more I I'm like, oh, welcome, pull up a chair at the table. I'll make you a bowl of soup, and just hear actually what's being said there, which can be really scary because, a lot of that is stuff that I don't want to hear, and I think in many ways the sort of hero's journey is mapped around not listening maybe to those, or at least how I experienced as a child. It was like, soldier on, and none of that's going to help you, so shut it down.
And kind of like enslay the demons rather than love them.
Slay the demons. And I was like, wow, okay, these demons, as soon as I started to see all of the voices of fear and dissent and all of it as just terrified little girls, just a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old inside who were desperately trying anything to save me from whatever fate they were terrified was going to befall me. And if that meant that they had to say, you're never going to be good enough, don't even try, be quiet, you're just going to embarrass yourself if you open your mouth. Like that actually wasn't coming from some sort of like inner monster, a part of me that hated me, a part of me that wanted to sabotage me. It was coming from a part of me that loves me so much, and is frozen in this belief that if we do this thing or say this thing or be ourselves or be fully here, that we're going to die. Some part of us has to die if that happens. And so, yeah, I really feel that just a metaframe that all parts are welcome means that when some emotion comes up that I think in the past I might have been inclined to be like, God, I'm feeling a little melancholy today. What's wrong with me? Like, oh, I hate this. It must be because I'm PMSing. Oh, it must be because, I had a bad dream last night. Like, but I need a diagnosis, and then moreover, I need to fix this melancholy, or I need to fix this frustration, or I need to fix this anger. It's something wrong, and I can't soldier on if I have this monkey on my back. But instead going, oh, I'm experiencing frustration. Like, let me just be with that and notice where it's coming from in me and just listen. What I noticed is every time those little children who, they were making big shadows, but they were just little kids, kind of, when I let them out of the basement and put them around the table and gave them a bowl of soup and said, okay, talk to me, what's really going on? And sort of just embraced all of the parts of myself. And as I've done this over and over every day, and sometimes failing at embracing all of me, and sometimes, really feeling that deep inner embrace, I just found myself feeling much more able to be with all of my emotions and notice that, sometimes though the emotions that are coming up that feel inconvenient are helping to reshape my next steps in a really beautiful way. Like they're helping me stand in greater alignment. They're helping me love with a more open heart, that those things that I think emotions that in the past I would just have really written off as inconvenient and to be slayed, dragons to be slayed. I'm like, wow, you are my greatest allies. You are showing me where to put my next steps in the darkness where I don't know where to go next. And you're going right here, this step, just by having a deeper embrace of all of it. It sounds so esoteric to say, but it's made such a difference to just hold that meta frame that all parts are welcome here.
Yeah, and we each need to really experience that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's easy to embrace the parts that we like, but that's like saying in a family of 5 children, only the ones who do well in school and are exceptionally talented have a place here. The rest of you get to go live in the basement. The scared one who pees her bed, you go in the basement. The one who has a hard time learning or feels socially awkward, like you go in the basement, and like just locking all the parts in the basement that we don't like. I think that's the way that most of us do things. Like take all the shameful bits and shove them in the dark.
And in addition to more self-acceptance, which I know is a lifelong journey for all of us, what are some other kind of openings that this crisis, this breakdown, breakthrough, brought you to be the woman that you are here today talking to us?
There are a couple of things that I actually pulled out of your book that really spoke to me, that actually are speaking to me as you're asking this very question. One thing you wrote was, "She won't let you fall asleep to the song of your soul." She won't let you fall asleep to the song of your soul. I was like, ugh. And so I think that, another really deep piece for me that came out of that trial and, all of the trials since is the recognition that there's no shortcut. If I'm walking, on a spiral staircase into the darkness, through the light, through the darkness, through the light, down, down, down into the depths, there's no shortcut. And just embracing the beauty of that. Like, there's no shortcut. How beautiful that there's no shortcut. Like, I think I've let go of the illusion that there's some linear unicorn ride into, like, eternal happiness. I've really just let go of looking for my unicorn to happiness. And for me, happiness is no longer the goal. It's like, I actually want to be here. I want to be with all of it. And I think that a turning point for me was recognizing that if I couldn't be with pain, with sadness, with heartbreak within myself, then I couldn't be with it in the world. So that means if I have children, I won't be able to hold them in that. It means if I walk by someone on the street who's in deep pain, I can't let myself meet them. Like, I can't let myself just be with them, because I can't be with that. I can only be with happiness. And as soon as I recognized that I had been architecting my life around something that, A, I wasn't designed for, and B, actually doesn't give me what I want. I feel like I let go of that and recognized there's no shortcut. That's not what I want, and B, there's no shortcut. And as you said, and so beautifully, she won't let you fall asleep to the song of your soul. There is no shortcut. So, I'm so meandering that I don't even know if I've answered your question, but I really feel like that's been such a gift.
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And Nisha, what currently feels like your growing edge, since the spiral staircase is always kind of going up or down?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you headed on your heroine's journey right now?
There are occurs as 2 things, and I will discover that it's one thing. It's all one thing. But I'll say what is occurring right now is 2 things. One is just, as I grow simultaneously my business, and because it's a business, there's all this stuff that involves finances, and, obviously it's rooted in service, and I feel very connected to that root of service. But it's a business. And also I have a desire to build a foundation that will hold Global Sisterhood Day, and other projects that I want to work on, with girls. The first project is around working with girls in high school age girls. And as I sort of start straddling those two roles and growing all of that into the vision that I see, I really feel like I'm on a growing edge around embracing that, making space for that, like where do I have like some sort of, where am I holding on to an identity that doesn't make space for that, basically? And, how can I disidentify with, let go of whatever it is that's, like alchemize whatever it is that has me feeling like that's not possible for myself or the world, or like whatever the stories and beliefs are. Like I really feel like I'm at a growing edge as I notice when I look at that vision, there's still a big part of me that like kind of backs away and folds her arms a little bit, like, but how? Like show me how, and then I'll believe it. So that feels like a really big growing edge for me. And the other one is, and again, they're surely connected, is just navigating pace with a partner. So the person who I had the breakup with, that was the big rupture of the dam that has given me all of these incredible gifts, we're together again. We sort of had to navigate these deep journeys separately, but really still with deep love for one another, and came back together. And so we've been together for some time now. And my growth edge is, when I say navigating pace with a partner, what that means for me is I have historically, when I met with someone else's strong desire, regardless of what it is, like I want to eat Chinese food for dinner, or, I don't want to have children, or I want this experience, or I want that experience. When I met with like a clear, strong desire, historically, I have often not been able to locate mine. So it's like the clearest, strongest desire takes up all the space for me, and then mine is mislocated. And so I go like, oh, okay, yours sounds good. I want you to have that. So I guess I'll just make my desire whatever yours is. And I've been noticing that for several years now and sort of unraveling that. And now it's sort of around pace. So how do I be with, what my partner's pace is around things and what his desires are, and hold it all as right and okay and valid, and at the same time not abandon my desires when we aren't perfectly matched in our paces. And so that could be little things like recognizing, actually, my body wants to go to bed now, even though your body doesn't want to go to bed now, or you don't want to go to bed now. And how can I not make you wrong and honor my body's need to go to bed now, but also honor, hey, I actually have a desire for us to go to bed at the same time. That it's a seemingly little thing, but you could kind of expand that into many other sort of quote unquote bigger life things as well. And so navigating that space, and those are the big growing edges that I'm present to right now.
It sounds really rich, and I know, just going back to how we started this call about how in sisterhood we're like mirrors for each other. We can see, oh yeah, that's happening for me too, or I remember when it felt like that, and I'm just feeling resonance as I'm hearing you share that. So thank you so much for your wisdom, for your willingness to share your struggles, and to share the tools that have helped you through those struggles to become the woman that you are now, and to become the leader that you are for other women. So it's been an honor to have you, Nisha.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here, and so grateful for this dialogue. And as I shared, so grateful for the work that you're doing as well, and your willingness to surrender to the call. So thank you.
If you're ready to go deeper into your heroine's journey, I invite you to explore my new book, The Book of She. You can visit thebookofshe.com to register your receipt for this order before October 30th. And when you do, you'll receive an invitation to join me and our community in a free online women's yoga and meditation class, as well as a live Q&A. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support. Thank you so much for being part of our sisterhood.